This is Stuart Smith from STUARTIZM Designs LLC. We are again at the Factory of Terror in Worcester, Massachusetts. Owners Tony and Sue. Again, super nice people. Great project. This room was gigantic. I think it was 35 by 50 or 60 feet. And we had to do large format images. These were 30 by 40. The two in the back, the spider lady and the big spider, and then these individual pieces were large as well, and you'll see that as you see me working on them on the ladder. See the size of my body compared to the images. The floor we splattered. Again, we used Rust-Oleum's water-based cement stain, and we mixed that in with the paint and splattered the floor after we painted it black. And that gave us a beautiful area. The walls painted all the way around, and then, as memory serves, Tony sat there and set up a cage maze in the inside of that. So, got some images I showed you before. You see the gray primer going on. Another thing you'll notice, you're seeing this primer is glowing pretty good. I added a little horizon blue into the primer just because the day glow's so powerful. It'll cut that gray primer a little bit so I can see better what I'm doing when I'm placing the primers on the wall in the black light. I also am testing the lighting to see where he might need to remove them and how powerful it is to the given object. And for the most part, Tony has set up the lights really well. A standard is at least 2 to 3 feet off of the given wall. And if it's an 8-foot wall at the 9-foot level, these were 10-foot walls. He had them down a little bit, so we kept the images a little bit down. But ultimately, that's the standard, 1 foot up and 2 to 3 feet out will give you the exposure, especially when you're working with 40-watt, 4-foot tubes. A danger, and I'll tell all you this, the new LED lights that are coming out, these are not true black light. The bulbs are the best, unless you're going metal halide, Altmans, or the big giant cannons. So you're going to want to avoid using the LEDs, only for the fact that they also illuminate the black. And the real UV lights will make the black disappear. So that is just words to the wise of 20 years working and seeing that the newfangled things are not what you're looking for, unless you're not concerned about that. For me, photography-wise, be able to take pictures or anything, having the LEDs is not a good idea. You're going to notice that we're going to concentrate on the spider lady. And this mural, again, is 10 feet by 35 feet. And it was going to be the major centerpiece along with the spider. That's the corresponding wall on the other side. And we just worked steadily. Again, I primed everything all the way through. And then I laid in the colors and all the images all the way through. And then detailed them one at a time. It is a good idea on this particular one that I kept black areas. Reason being, as you well notice, I make these things up as I go. I wanted these spiky legs coming out of her hair, and there's no sense in having to repaint and repaint. So you have them spread out with the intention of placing the hair, and to make it nice and fluffy and flowing, we're not going to put a blob of color there and try to do it in black. We're going to come along and ghost it, being careful that our colors don't, blow the head back or forward too much. And that gives a nice transition. You'll also see with a lot of these images that we're doing the ghost images in the background. Like in the painter room 2, we will come along and take black and take care of all the stewy overspray, and then use the ghosted patterns in the background, whether it looks like cobwebs or eyeballs or like for the spider lady hair, and that will force the hard images areas forward and will really deepen the wall as far as when it goes to 3D glasses. It looks cool with just you looking at it, but with the 3D glasses, it really forces your hard images. Again, the hard images is where we've placed primer and then color on top of it, and that will just shoot them forward. Also, with the legs of the spider lady, we're going to notice that we're placing legs over top of each other. I've done kind of a fade of colors, blue to orange to red, and in areas where the hook comes forward, I placed blue behind that, and then utilize the shadowing with it to force that hook forward even above and beyond the red that's in the background. So you can play red upon red and have some of the red be forced forward, some of it backwards, based on creative placement of the colors and your shadowing and detail. And then later on, we're going to place our hair and our little pustules and everything, just utilizing color on the black background, and have those sit above the ghosted areas. Some people ask questions as to how long this stuff takes. This room was wiped out in a day and a half. Okay, now I know some people want to pass out at that, but when you've been doing it as long as I have, you look at a 10 by 35 wall and you just don't blink an eyeball. You just got to do an image. Okay, so what slows down the process is not having the area ready when you want to get to it. And in this particular area, it was a basement. The temperatures are pretty good, but when you're dealing with some of the materials like this masonite we were painting on, the walls stayed cold, so it took a while for some of the paint to dry, and we want to make sure the paint dries really well before we move on. Again, I'm using Rust-Oleum flat black oil base for the detail, and we need the paint, UV paint, the primer, everything to be dry before it gets placed on top of it. So that's what draws you back. You place certain colors down. You have to wait a little while for that color to at least set before we can take another color and blend it into it, or if it builds up too much, you might get runs. I had some areas where runs happen, and that's where you whip up your rags or your chip brushes to try to clean that up. And of course, a lot of that can get cleaned up just with your detail, but try to avoid that as much as possible. And sometimes it's totally out of your control, so don't get too excited when you're throwing down the colors. Just take your time and get her done. But also, I do a lot of mixing of my own colors. I rarely ever shoot directly out of the can. So when I did her hair, I utilized just a touch of green, the blue, and a touch of yellow. Now, if you take yellow, just a smidgen of yellow with your blue, it will make the blue far whiter than out of the can, and you can see the difference between her hair and the cobwebs in the background when we get to that point in the slideshow. That it really makes it stand out and brings it forward above the out of the can blue, which worked out well for the background. So do some experimentation. I like to use gray colors. I love to sit there and make mud colors. And it doesn't matter what the color looks like upon the wall, depending on how much red you use or how much any other colors you use. Your red, green, blue pattern will still be maintained even if you can't see it with your own eyes. So I might use a gray on there because I've mixed a orange with green and a tad bit of blue, And you can stagger that down by setting up certain cups and putting in different portions of those colors, and you'll be able to create some browns and some grays that to the naked eye looks gray, but depending on how much orange is in it, it will still come forward above and beyond other colors. Your eyes can see it, or at least your brain can. Not so much, you yourself. So that has been really nice when it comes to saying, hey, I'm not using quote-unquote traditional 3D colors, but we get some awesome results. You can do rooms that have no red in it whatsoever, at least to the naked eye, but you can have things come forward and shoot backwards. It's a great experience for the customers, and you've kind of broken the rules as far as, Happy Joy Joy Christmas 3D. And I think also if you watch, like when we did the large eyeball, you'll see me painting on that on the ladder. We're doing a lot of the colors rather than staunch colors. We're doing the colors and we're blending them into each other. And then when you're doing your detail, that works out fantastic to sit there and have this nice clean object, utilizing your grays and your shadowing with detail without having it just cookie color, high on UV, blow your eyeballs out, subtle, going subtle, and that gives mysteriousness and excitement to the imagery. This room had no rhyme or reason. I personally do not cater to a themed room or a themed attraction. Customers don't care. Normally that just goes along with the ego of the person who owns the place or the artist. Customers don't care. They want to see something cool. And I know that ticks off a lot of, happy joy theatrical people out there. But the end result is customers don't care. Okay, I've been doing it long enough to do more attractions than pretty much anybody in the industry, and they don't care. They want to see something awesome, cool, and a great experience, something that scares them, that's something that excites them. And they don't necessarily need to go along with a story. We themed out different rooms basically just by imagery, not so much of saying, hey, look, this is a room of whatever. Okay, so don't strap yourself down creatively when it comes to doing a 3D maze. Just go crazy with it. In this room, I just went wild. I didn't even think about it. We got in there and just started throwing down paint, and then I created as I saw fit. If I wanted something, I just came along and added a little bit more to it. And Tony gave me that freedom, which 99.9% of my customers do, to just come in, and because what we do at STUARTIZM spells success to the client. And 9 times out of 10 is the most popular site at the establishment. So I want you guys to just understand that it's a lot of work. Physically hopping up and down the ladder, crawling across floors, moving back and forth. But ultimately, there's a lot more brain work involved than the physical aspect. Now, I have been woken up in the middle of the night with my hand going to a palsy because of pushing on that trigger on the the airbrush. I just wake up and tell my wife, that I'm about to lose my hand, but that goes away in time, and that's all part of the fun. Tell stories. So, just want to make this room as exciting for Tony as possible. And again, like I said, we sat there, splattered the floor, and then Tony put a cage maze in the center of it. So they walked out of a different location of the 3D maze, and boom, they had to walk through this. It was going to have some loud music. They would see all this imagery through the chain link fence, and on top of it, the floor was all splattered. It worked out really nice. Looked really sharp. I actually never saw it with the chain link fence. A lot of times we don't see our projects completed, but ultimately I think it turned out really nice, and Tony was very happy. So enjoy the rest of the imagery, and I really appreciate you guys listening. Subscribe if you could, please, and we'll have more videos coming soon. We just have to hit on some hot facade action here soon. You guys take care, and God bless.